What's up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be taking a look at Protection Paladins on the Battle for Azeroth beta. We'll be looking at their baseline abilities as well as their passives, then we'll check out their talents and PvP talents. Now just like my other overview videos, this isn't meant to tell you which talents to pick for the best tanking, or if Protection is one of the best specs at tanking. This is merely to show you what's to come. So, let's get started. So here are all the baseline abilities for the Protection Paladin. They've got Lay on Hands, obviously still have Lay on Hands, 10-minute cooldown. It does the exact same thing. Heals a target or yourself for an amount equal to your maximum health, and then of course still causes Forbearance. Then there's Light of the Protector. It still heals. Its cooldown is still based off your haste around 15-ish seconds, but its effect has slightly changed, I believe. So it calls down a light to heal you for some amount, increased by up to 200% based on your missing health. And then there's Blessing of Freedom. No change to that at all. 25-second cooldown. Place it on yourself or a party or raid member, and they get immunities to movement impairing effects for 8 seconds. Then Blessing of Sacrifice. Its cooldown is going down from 2.5 minutes to 2 minutes. I believe your artifact weapon made it 1.5 minutes, but baseline on live, it's 2.5 minutes. So they've kind of just took a middle ground and made it 2 minutes. Its effect has not changed though. Blesses a party or raid member, reducing their damage taken by 30%, and you suffer 100% of that damage prevented. And it lasts 12 seconds or until transfer damage would cause you to fall below 20% health. Then there's Flash of Light, not changed at all. It's a quick cast heal, takes up a lot of mana, heals for a high amount. Cleanse Toxins, not changed, 8-second cooldown. You can cleanse a friendly target, removing all poison and disease effects. Then there's Avenging Wrath. So it still has a 2-minute cooldown. It calls upon the light to become an avatar of retribution, increasing your damage, healing, and critical strike chance by 20% for 20 seconds. So on live, that increases your damage by 35%, so that is sadly going down to 20%. It increases your healing by 35% as well, that's also sadly going down to 20%, but it will now increase your critical strike chance by, well, 20%. Then there is Guardian of the Ancient Kings, not changed at all. 5-minute cooldown, empowers you with the Spirit of the Ancient Kings, reducing all damage you take by 50% for 8 seconds. Ardent Defender. Its effect does not really change. It's still a 2-minute cooldown. It still reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. So that part's the same. But while Ardent Defender is active, the next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 20% of your max health. I believe on live it brings you up to 12%. Then there's Hand of Reckoning. Obviously not changed. This is your taunt. Avenger's Shield. So it still has a cooldown based off of your haste. Its first effect is still the same. It hurls your shield at the enemy target, dealing some holy damage, interrupting and silencing the non-player target for 3 seconds, and then jumping to 2 additional nearby enemies. That part's not changed, but it will now increase the effects of your next Shield of Righteous by 20%. So that second part is new. Then there's Consecration. So the only change to Consecration is that its base cooldown is going down from 9 seconds to 4.5 seconds. It still has a cooldown based off of your haste, but as you see there, it says 3.8 seconds for me, whereas it most likely won't say that for you on live currently unless you have an ungodly amount of haste. Anyways, yeah, its base cooldown without any haste is going down from 9 seconds to 4.5 seconds, so shorter cooldown. Still does the same thing. Consecrates the land beneath you, causing holy damage over 12 seconds to enemies who enter the area, limit to 1. Then there's Hammer of Righteous, which is not changed at all. Has 2 charges, still a cooldown based off of your haste. Hammers the current target for some physical damage while you're standing in your consecration. Hammer of the Righteous also causes a wave of light that hits all other targets within 8 yards for some holy damage. Then there's Shield of Righteous. So it has some changes to it. Its cooldown is still based off your haste, slams enemies in front of you with your shield causing holy damage, and it will increase your armor now by 1306 for 4.5 seconds. So on live, that actually reduces the damage you take by 33%, but that's getting changed to increasing your armor by some set amount. And on live, it also has a second effect which buffs Shield of Righteous if you're standing in your consecrate, but that effect was removed. Then there's Judgment, not changed. Cooldown still based off your haste, around 5-ish, 6 seconds. Judges the target, dealing holy damage and reducing the remaining cooldown on Shield of Righteous by 2 seconds or 4 seconds on a critical strike. Hammer of Justice, not changed. 1-minute cooldown. It is your 6-second stun, of course. Rebuke, not changed also. 15-second cooldown. This is your interrupt. Then there is Divine Steed. which is also not changed. Actually, the rest of these abilities are not changed, but I'll still go through them. 45-second cooldown. You can jump on your charger for 3 seconds, increase your movement speed by 100%, and you can use it while indoors or in combat. Blessing of Protection. One of your bubbles, 5-minute cooldown, not changed. Blesses a party or raid member, granting immunities to physical, damage, and harmful effects for 10 seconds. And then, of course, causes Forbearance for 30 seconds. And then Divine Shield, your other bubble, 5-minute cooldown, grants immunities to all damage and harmful effects for 8 seconds. And then, of course, gives you Forbearance. And then Redemption, which is your res. So now let's take a look at the passive abilities. So Grand Crusader is not changed, still passive. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of the Righteous, you have a 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Avenger's Shield. That is the same on live. Heart of the Crusader is not changed. You move 20% faster while you're mounted, and it doesn't stack with other effects. And now your Mastery was changed slightly, so the first effect at least was changed. So it reduces all damage you've taken while inside your Consecration by some percentage, and it increases your chance to block melee attacks by some percentage. On live, it would buff Shield of Righteous, no longer does that. And then the second effect is still the same, also increases your attack power by some percent. Now for the talents, and I'll also go over PvP talents in case you care about those. As far as the talents go, there are some changes here and there. So we have Holy Shield, which is not changed. Your block chance is increased by 15%, and you're able to block spells, and your successful blocks deal some amount of holy damage to your attacker. Now Redoubt is new. There was actually a protection talent a long time ago. It was removed in Cataclysm, which was called Redoubt, but it's not this at all. It was completely changed, I guess, from that original Redoubt. Anyways, Avenger's Shield bounces to 1 additional target and increases your block by 75% for 8 seconds. And then there's Blessed Hammer, which is not changed. Replaces Hammer of the Righteous, 3 charges, cooldown based off your haste, throws a Blessed Hammer that spirals downward, dealing holy damage to enemies and weakens them, reducing the damage you take from their auto attacks by 12%. And then the second tier, level 30 tier, which is not changed at all. So first Avenger. Passive Avenger's Shield now deals 50% increased damage to the first target it hits. Grand Crusader now has an additional 10% chance to occur. So it's not changed. Crusader's Judgment is not changed. Passive Judgment now has 2 charges, and Grand Crusader now also grants a charge of Judgment. And then Bastion of Light, also not changed. 2-minute cooldown, immediately grants 3 charges of Shield of the Righteous. And then we have the level 45 tier. So Fist of the Justice was nerfed slightly, so it's still a passive. Judgment reduces the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 6 seconds. On live, that's 10 seconds. And then there's Repentance. Obviously, we know what Repentance does. It's a CC, 15-second cooldown. You can incapacitate a target for 1 minute. Only works against humanoids, demons, undead, dragonkin, and giants. Blinding Light does not change. 1.5 minute cooldown. You emit a dazzling light within 10 yards around you, and it dazes, or disorients, enemies for 6 seconds. And non-holy damage will break the disorient effect. Then we have the level 60 tier. Not changed at all. So Retribution Aura. You and your allies within 60 yards are protected by an aura that lashes out against melee attackers dealing holy damage. Not changed. Cavalier gives Divine Steed 2 charges. Not changed. Blessing of Spell Warding, which replaces Blessing of Protection. It is also not changed. 3-minute cooldown, blesses a party or raid member, granting immunity to magical effects and harmful effects for 10 seconds. Cannot be used because it gives Forbearance and all that stuff. The level 75 tier. So Unbreakable Spirit is now also protection. So this used to just be holy, and it does the same thing as it does for holy. So it reduces the cooldown of your Divine Shield, Ardent Defender, and Lay on Hands by 30%. So there is that. And then Final Stand, which is not changed at all. When you use Divine Shield, you also taunt all targets within 15 yards of you for 8 seconds. And then Hand of Protector, which it does the same thing, kind of. It still heals at least, but it was slightly changed. So it replaces Light of the Protector, has a cooldown based off your haste, calls down the light to heal a friendly target for some amount, increased by up to 200% based on your missing health. So that was of course changed slightly because Light of the Protector was changed slightly to accommodate. Level 90 tier. So Judgment of Light had a small change to it. So Judgment now causes the next 25 successful attacks on live. That's 40, next 40 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for some amount. Then there's Consecrated Ground. So the first effect of it has changed. Your consecration is 15% larger. On live, it used to heal allies in your consecrate. And the second effect is still the same. And enemies within it have a 50% reduced movement speed. And then Aegis of Light, not changed. 3-minute cooldown. Channels an Aegis of Light that protects you and all allies standing within 10 yards behind you for 6 seconds, reducing all damage taken by 20%. Then the level 100 tier is actually not changed at all. So Last Defender It's a passive. Each enemy within 8 yards reduces the damage that you take and increases the damage that you deal by up to 3%. Then Righteous Protector. It's a passive. Shield of the Righteous reduces the remaining cooldown on Light of the Protector and Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds. And then Seraphim. So a 45-second cooldown. It's not changed. The Light temporarily magnifies your power, increasing your haste, crit, mastery, and versatility by some amount, consuming up to 2 charges of Shield of the Righteous and lasts 8 seconds per charge. So there you have it. So those are all of the talents. Now let's take a look at the PvP talents. If you're unaware of how PvP talents will work in BFA, this is how it goes. You have these 4 bubbles here. This first bubble is the same for all classes and all specs. It has Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, Relentless. They all do the same thing as they do on live. They're on the first tier on live, and you get to pick between one of these 3. Now these next 3 bubbles are a giant pool of your already existing PvP talents that you get to pick from. So it's no longer on a tier system, it's on this giant pool system that you get to pick from. So 3 you might really like that are on the same tier on live, well, you'll be able to pick them in BFA as long as they're still in the game, because the only changes really to them is that they've pruned a few. So as far as changes to the actual abilities, there's really no changes. There's only like a small change to one of them. So I'm going to do this as I'm going to mouse over it. I'm going to read the name. If you want to know what it does, you can pause the video to read it, or you can look at your Protection Paladin. But for the one that was changed, I will of course talk about what the change is. So there's Hallowed Ground, Steed of Glory, Sacred Duty, Judgment of the Pure, Guardian of the Forgotten Queen, Guarded by the Light, Inquisition, and then Warrior of Light. So the small change to this is it still increases damage done by your Shield of the Righteous by 30%, that's the same, but it will reduce armor granted by 30%. Because on live this like reduces damage reduction effect by 10% or something, but now it will reduce armor granted by 30%. And then there's Shield of Virtue, Cleansing Light, Holy Ritual, Luminescence, and then Unbound Freedom. And they're all the PvP talents as well as all of the normal talents. And there you have it, all the changes to Protection Paladins coming in the Battle for Azeroth pre-patch, which is coming July 17th. If you guys like these changes, then you can leave in the comments below, or if you hate these changes. Or if you're thinking of changing your main to a prop pally, then I'd ask, why? No, I'm kidding. But if you guys enjoyed this video, then you can leave a like on it, you can sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.